last, Mr. Knightley. You must have had a shocking walk.
Not at all, sir. It's a beautiful evening.
You must have found it very damp and dirty.
Dirty, sir? Look at my shoes. Not a speck on them. How do you do? I came to wish you joy.
Joy? Oh, the wedding. It's a terrible day.
So how did you all behave? Who cried the most?
We all behaved charmingly. Everybody was in their best looks. Not a tear, and hardly a long face to be seen.
Bring the screen a little closer. Mr. Knightley feels a chill.
And what of Mr. Frank Churchill? Is he every bit as handsome as his father promised he would be? He did not come.
You see, he wished exceedingly to come, but his aunt and uncle could not spare him.
Well, I dare say he might have come if he could.
I do not know why you should say so.
If Frank Churchill had wanted to attend his father's wedding, he would have contrived it. He chose not to come.
We have never met Mr. Frank Churchill. We do not know what he is able or unable to do.
There is one thing, Emma, which a man can always do if he chooses, and that is his duty. It is Frank Churchill's duty to pay this attention to his father.
He also has a duty to his aunt who is unwell.
Mrs. Churchill has been unwell for as long as she could say so. Her nephew is not a doctor. If he had told her simply and resolutely that he must attend his father's wedding, there would have been no opposition to his going.
You are the worst judge in the world, Mr. Knightley, of the difficulties of dependence. You've always been your own master. You have no idea what it is to have tempers to manage.
I shall remember that next time you quarrel with me.
There is a new parlour boarder, Papa, at Miss Goddard's school. Miss Smith.
There, distinctly. Do you feel it? A chill draft. A chill and sickly draft.
She's a natural child. Nobody knows her parentage, not even Miss Smith herself. So not mysterious.
Miss Taylor would have felt it.
The misfortune of your birth, Harriet, ought to make you particularly careful as to your associates. There can be no doubt of your being a gentleman's daughter. You must support your claim to that station by everything within your power.
Know you the Martins, Miss Woodhouse, of Abbey Mill Farm?
I know that they are tenant farmers. They rent their farm from Mr. Knightley.
They were ever so kind to me this summer. When I went away, Mrs. Martin was so very kind as to send Mrs. Goddard a beautiful goose. The finest goose Mrs. Goddard had ever seen, she said.
The Martins are of precisely the order of people with whom I feel I can have nothing to do. A degree or two lower might interest me. If they were very poor, I might hope to be useful to them in some way, but a farmer can need none of my help, and is therefore as much above my notice as he is below it.
Mr. Robert Martin went 3 miles one day to bring me walnuts, because he knew how fond I was of them. I believe he's very clever. He understands everything.
Come. After tea we shall call on my dear Mrs. Weston. We promised we should be seeing one another every day. It was a beautiful service, Mr. Elton. Oh, I'm not the first to visit you this morning.
You are no less welcome for being the second.
Mr. Elton, Miss Harriet Smith.
It is my great honour.
Harriet, you must sit over there. that you may admire the view of Enscombe. Mr. Frank Churchill is the artist.
I have heard it described as one of the finest houses in Yorkshire.
I have heard the same.
And Mr. Churchill is to inherit the entire estate.
He's very fortunate.
There is such symmetry between us. We both lost our mothers when we were very young, and he has his aunt to care for as I have Papa.
But how can we admire a painted beauty with such loveliness before us in the flesh?
Mr. Elton is such a good-humoured man. So cheerful and obliging and gentle. I think very well of Mr. Elton.
I do so wonder, Miss Woodhouse, that you should not be going to be married. So charming as you are.
I have none of the usual inducements of women to marry. Fortune I do not want. Employment I do not want. Consequence I do not want. I believe few married women are half as much mistress of their husband's house as I am of Hartfield. You must come again tomorrow.
Thank you, Miss Woodhouse.
I like to rise when the sun she rises early in the morning. I like to hear them small birds singing merrily upon their lane. Wander off for the life of a country boy, and to ramble in the new moon.
Miss Woodhouse, which do you prefer?
They are practically identical.
Of course, if the dark gets dirty, it will not show. But the light...
The dark, then.
The light is a good deal prettier. Miss Woodhouse, what's the matter?
Miss Woodhouse! Miss Woodhouse!